Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode and a brand new season 5 of our F123 driver career mode. I hope you're all having a great day. It's an exciting one. If you watched the off-season episode, you've been in the loop of the roster changes as well as new liveries and the brand new team of Trackhouse Racing. We come into the season relatively similar to where we were last season in R&D, except we start on the back foot in the durability department with the changes. So we actually have the worst reliability on the grid. Red Bull Ford focused mainly on the performance aspect of the regulation changes, not the durability. So that is going to bring questions into, of course, how is this going to affect us coming into this weekend and for, I would say, probably the first, 6-7 races of this season now. Australia never seems to be a track, for whatever reason, in F123 to really be a strength of the Red Bull car. So I think we're going to have a bit of a rough opening weekend here, to be completely honest, but there's only one way to find out, and that's getting on track. And we roll right onto the circuit here in FP1 on Friday afternoon, getting, of course, up to grips with the car, and as well as some of these new roster changes. Of course, the big one being Hamilton and Verstappen, both now teammates at Ferrari. Hamilton returning from retirement. Excited to see what he's going to be able to do this weekend here. But practice, it wasn't, completely smooth. I invalidated my lap time, and as well, on top of that, actually had the spin out of the final turn.
All good, mate?
Yep, just ran out of talent on that one. You hear myself and Mark there now. We would get it spun back around, but that was it for us in FP1. It was actually Mercedes at the top of the board with Russell and Norris. They're looking to, turn things around. They had a hot start last season and basically just swapped with us. We had a bit of a slow start last season, and they were hot, and then we got quick, and they got pretty slow. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do here, though, on Saturday afternoon in qualifying.
Alex, what's the goal now as defending champion today?
Top 3. If we get top 3, we'll be in good shape for the race.
You hear Alex Albon to Natalie Pinkham there now as Q1, as usual. No different than last season. It's a breeze right now. The bottom 5 teams still way behind in the R&D, even with the regulation changes, because the regulation changes just didn't do a whole lot. My new teammate, Felipe Drugovich, here at Red Bull Ford, actually beats us in this first qualifying session as the rookie of Marcus Armstrong at the bottom of the grid. Alfa Romeo Haas has been looking for a consistent lineup, and it already seems like they're still not going to get that this season, but it's still too early, of course, to tell just based off of one qualifying session. Q2, we would roll through into P10. Again, it's looking like, a 10th place kind of day here. Qualifying so much more difficult in F123 compared to the race, but we would set a second lap, but we would end up P10 anyways as Drugovich P5, Albon at the top of the board. Ocon, Gasly out, Hughes as well, and Carlos Sainz in his brand new BMW starts P14 in Australia as Zhou Guanyu there P15. Q3 now through turn 1, getting through there pretty well, and overall, I was happy with the pace I was setting. I was happy with the apexes we were hitting. It just wasn't quite quick enough to match everybody else. We were over 3/10 off from Verstappen just through one sector of racing here, and I just couldn't find the time. Over half a second in the last half of the lap, and that time just continues to increase as the lap goes on. Nobody else is on track aside from Red Bull. Actually, myself and Drugovich. We crossed the stripe. And yeah, it's only P10 behind the pair of new team Trackhouse cars. Of course, there's no logo there. It still shows the Aston Martin logo, but we invalidate our lap time, so that's it. We'll start P10, and it's Alex Albon on pole in front of a absolute British lineup. Look at that. Jackson, Norris, Hamilton, and Russell. Mercedes has found some pace. Can they keep that in the Grand Prix? P7 and 10 for Red Bull. Let's move forward.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round 1 of this year's Formula One World Championship. We go racing today then in the state of Victoria, where the drivers have 14 corners and 3.28 miles to navigate at an average lap speed of around 120 miles per hour. Close proximity of the barriers make accidents inevitable. Recent history shows us that a safety car is not at all out of the question. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Alex Albon leads us away from pole position, and it's Aiden Jackson alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Hamilton, Russell, Verstappen, Drugovich, Oscar Piastri, Leclerc, Golden Boy, Ocon, Gasly, Hughes, Sainz, Joe, Liam Lawson, Butler, Mayer, Tsunoda and Marcus Armstrong. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Natalie Pinkham is with me today as we get another year of Formula One underway.
Well, it's clear, very clear conditions, and that makes it clear for the drivers because they don't have to worry and have that added distraction of fickle weather. They can concentrate on the driving and not everything else around them.
We're ready to roll here from Albert Park here in Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. Brand new tires, of course, this season. Bridgestone takes over Pirelli, the Groove tires as well, but the strategy does not change for us. Mediums to hards. Let's get ready to roll.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out.
Only 2 cars on mediums, myself and rookie Marcus Armstrong. Have we made the wrong call already? Let's find out.
So as all the cars take their positions on the grid, the teams will be hoping their strategies pay off for them in today's race. The question I'm asking is which teams have got it right, which ones have got it horribly wrong?
Alright team, let's have a good start of the year. Obviously this track not usually great for our car, but I have hope for a top 5.
Yep, just stay after it all day long for us.
We're ready to kick off Season 5. A new tire supplier. We got a illustrious lineup of Hamilton and Verstappen and Ferrari. How are they going to get along? What can they do? Ferrari has invested hard into them. A brand new team of Trackhouse Racing on the grid here with Leclerc as well as Piastri as well. Can McLaren defend both titles again this season? 16 races is all we have. Can we finally get that first world title in Season 5? Let's kick off Season 5. It's lights out. We're underway and it's already a poor start up ahead for someone. That's Verstappen in the Ferrari. Russell as well. We swing through. We were 4 wide through the middle. We past our teammate of Drugovich, and it's Norris who gets the lead from Albon. Into turn number 1, the Monster Energy Mercedes machine out in front. We talked about it. Mercedes, they need to find something. They had such a dramatic downfall last season. Their pace just disappeared about the halfway point in the season, but there's Alex Albon in second place now with the number 1 branding on his McLaren as well. Wheel to wheel in the background. That's Jake Hughes going at it with Pierre Gasly. He's ahead in that Martini Williams machine. Everybody else getting sorted out just behind, including the brand new rookie on the grid of Marcus Armstrong, of course, one driver in her second season. Callie Mayer here with the Connor Sport team now looking for some more improvements. I'm actually getting passed by Russell. Russell's passed me back on the run down towards the chicane, and I was struggling immediately right off the bat. You can see lacking pace and very understeery there as we get a warning for exceeding track limits. And it wasn't just understeer through that chicane. I was having understeer in a lot of corners actually, and that was really, of course, halting my progress as I was having to back up the corner at the end of lap 1. Here comes Albon already up the inside, going for the overtake. Not going to quite happen on Lando Norris. He's going to stay ahead, and now that puts Jackson right on the back of Alex Albon. Jackson contended for the world title last season, came up a bit short there, of course, in the closing rounds. He tries to go around the outside, not going to quite be enough right there. Albon stays ahead briefly. There he goes, trying to run away. Albon saying, you know, I am now a Formula 1 champion, but I'm not going to make it easy on you guys now. As you can see me going wide again on lap 2 in the chicane. Had to back out of it to make sure I didn't get a warning for track limits there. That would have been our second on just lap 2. But that opens the door now for Leclerc to kind of get into striking distance now as the DRS enabled, of course, on lap number 3. And I'm struggling now, some oversteer as well. And that opens the door wide open for the Monaco-based driver and the brand new Trackhouse Racing machinery. Up the inside he goes. Of course, this brand new team into the sport, owned by Justin Marks. Of course, they've had so much success in the NASCAR scene, have now have a MotoGP team as well. And you can see I continue to struggle, and I just let Leclerc have the position. I don't know what's wrong, guys. It's understeering, oversteering. It's doing everything right now. You hear me to the team, just giving them feedback on what's going on. We're going to stay tucked in behind Leclerc. No, point in pushing the issue. That's just not going to work for me. But then moments later, now my teammate of Felipe Drugovich attacking me as well. Of course, Drugovich just in his second season in Formula 1, it was looking like it was going to be myself and Leclerc at Red Bull Ford. It looked like it could have been Leclerc and Drugovich at Red Bull, but it turned out to be me and Drugovich as Leclerc went to Trackhouse Racing, but we stay put behind Drugovich as I continue to struggle into the 90-degree right-hander. Drugovich on lap 4 with a lockup that opened the door for me to go past, so up into P7 again, and now I took this as my opportunity to just calm down and see what we can do, and we would open up the gap. Drugovich was 2 seconds behind actually in a fight with Verstappen. Verstappen had a terrible start. Lewis Hamilton, of course, back on the grid with Ferrari. We haven't talked much about him in the Grand Prix so far, but he's up there in the top 4, running P4 right now as Jackson going for an overtake on Albon again into turn 1. It doesn't quite work. Albon stays ahead again. These two have had their fair share of battles last season, as well as already this season to kick off this opening Grand Prix, and you can see now here goes George Russell to the outside of Lewis Hamilton here. Hamilton now an 8-time world champion, of course, won in season 2, Verstappen season 1 and season 3 champions, and the only new champion we've had in the series so far is Alex Albon, our most recent champion in Formula 1 here now. As I was loving the idea of those battles happening up front because it just opens the door for us to move forward. Leclerc has run down that group. That Trackhouse machinery, it's getting off to a quick start now as actually a mechanical issue strikes early on. The car just switched into lean, guys.
Just hang in there, it will be fixed in a moment.
It was fixed on the same lap. It would get fixed, it would get resolved, but we lost basically almost a whole second of time being in lean, so the gap now 2.8 down to 2.6 though by the end of the lap, and 2.5 as we have yellow flags here now, and we have more mechanical issues kicking off. It's Hamilton. It's Lewis Hamilton in his return to Formula 1 after a year of retirement, and Ferrari, he's out of the Grand Prix here in Australia. We'll hear his thoughts on that one during the Through the Grid segment there. That is heartbreaking. His return to F1, and with Ferrari, who bid on the superstar lineup to kind of carry them forward, has already run into issues, while Verstappen, with this terrible start, still finds himself down in P8. Norris out in front by 1.7 seconds. Pay attention to the bottom of the screen. Mark's going to come over the radio, tell us Russell now with a mechanical issue. So we've had a mechanical issue, Hamilton's had a mechanical failure, and now Russell with a mechanical issue. That's 3 mechanical problems in this opening round. Durability, of course, was one of the things that saw a regulation change in the offseason. Not surprising to see this, but that would, of course, cause Russell to start plummeting in pace, and that allows Leclerc to be all over the back of him. Fortunately, Russell's fighting really, really hard, even when he's down on power, so that's allowing me to close in right here, as you can see. I mean, we're going to be all over the back of Charles Leclerc in this Trackhouse machine, right to the back wing of him now, but it's just going to be a matter of moments until Leclerc is able to pass Russell back on the DRS straight here, the curved straight, of course. Now, I could have forced it 3 wide, felt like that would be unbelievably stupid to do on lap 11 of the season, so I decided to stay put right there. Russell slides on the exit of the chicane to the right side of the track. We go with the DRS assistance there, and we're going to power through into the top 5, so things are starting to work out pretty well after qualifying P10. We don't have a car that's capable of winning the race. I didn't really expect that in Australia. Australia, not a track that's always benefited me, as I was not surprised by this, but Albon is going to kick off the pit window here, and actually I decided we're going to follow Albon in. So Albon kicks it off, I'm going to follow him, and we're going to pit a good 3 laps earlier, as I actually have a extremely late turn in, but the hard tire goes on anyways. I think on the medium to hard compound tire strategy that we commonly do, we can really benefit by pitting a few laps earlier. And I've been reading the comments, and I know there's one user specifically that talks to me about the strategy. You know who you are. I'm trying to listen to you a bit more on that one now. But we continue on. Jake Hughes right behind myself, of course, yet to pit there in the Williams. Another driver just starting his 2nd season in Formula 1. He fights to the left, not going to have anything to give, though. We stay ahead. So once the pit cycle works itself out, we will probably be still about that 5th position or so, and as we come through now a few moments later, now passing George Russell, and P6 actually is where we find ourselves right now, not P5. However, Oscar Piastri in 2nd place for the Trackhouse machine. He's going to have to pit as you come through to lap 15. This was Albon, Norris, and Jackson situation. So Norris pitted quite a bit later than Albon and came out in second place behind him right in front of Jackson. So Alex Albon now to the lead. Mercedes down to second place. Piastri had pitted as well, so he was now behind us all. So sure enough, we cycled through into P5. Halfway through this Australian Grand Prix, no signs of a safety car. It's really just been a mechanical issue kind of filled race so far. Will that continue? We'll have to wait and see. Russell's issues had gotten sorted, and unfortunately, he had run me down. I was struggling on pace again. I just don't have it here today in Australia, and Russell was all over me. Now, coming to the DRS straight here on that long run towards the chicane, you're going to see Russell is in striking distance here now, and he's going to have a real opportunity to overtake us momentarily. And as we come through the chicane, I mean, he is all over me, putting on the pressure, and I just don't have anything for him. He's going to sweep past me on the right side. Long gone down the road he's going to go. As Verstappen now just 1.2 seconds back, he's up to P7. My teammate of Drunkovic struggling down, currently in the 9th position, right behind Oscar Piastri in that Trackhouse machine. But yeah, this is a bit frustrating to say the least. But for the first time this season, let's go through the grid.
Another season of Through the Grid kicks off here in Melbourne. We see similar results to last year with Albon out in front again.
However, the gap is way closer to the other teams, which is promising for this year. I doubt we see McLaren run away in the constructors this time. Norris and Mercedes appear to be back on form as well.
Natalie is with Lewis Hamilton after his engine failure. So let's hear what he has to say.
Lewis, obviously not how you want to start the year. How was everything beforehand, and what's the future look like?
Looks good, honestly. Car was fast, and I proved that today. Mechanical issues happen early, and we'll find the issue and resolve it. It will be a good year.
You heard Lewis there, guys, and I just want to point out the new team Trackhouse, 4th and 8th right now. Not a bad start for this new team. Of course, they took over Aston Martin, so it was expected that they would be quick out of the gate.
Thanks, Ted. You see Butler chasing Lawson for 14th. Sonoda runs 16th in his BMW.
Yuki had a great season last year, but just fell victim to circumstance and didn't get to stay in a fast car. And all teams saw, and I wouldn't count him out of a top ride yet.
Marcus Armstrong, the last one running there just behind Callie Mayer now as we continue to follow and kind of stalk George Russell here, just remaining within the DRS. Verstappen now 0.8 of a second behind. He is closing Piastri only 1.6 seconds back, but to my surprise, Verstappen would start to fade. I'm not sure if he's got maybe a mechanical issue now because the gap was growing quite significantly. You can see now 1.8 seconds back, but we have really reeled in George Russell over the course of these last couple laps now, coming to just 7 laps to go, and you can see we are all over the back of the Mercedes here. Now 2.1 seconds between us on lap 23 as we continue on, and you as well heard Lewis Hamilton pretty optimistic about Ferrari's pace there in the Through the Grid segment, so I'm curious to see where they're going to end up here in these coming rounds. Now I think they got a lot more pace than what Verstappen's showing today in P8. Hamilton proved it earlier, running top 5 right to the back of Russell, trying to set him up for an overtake right here on the exit of the chicane, but we've set ourselves up instead. We've spun around back against the wall, and that's going to put us down to the 9th position. Thankfully, a huge gap between us and the cars behind, and we remain in the points due to Hamilton's issues and whatnot as well, but that all on me. I spun myself out. Embarrassing. That wasn't the car, that was me. I was just pushing too hard. We continue on, and, you know, we're going to be all by ourselves. Dragovic is 6.5 up the road, but it looks like with 5 to go, it's an 8th and 9th place kind of day here for Red Bull Ford, which is a pretty disappointing start to Season 5 compared to where we left off. Problems, actually. Lando Norris, the mechanical issues continue. Norris, who led the first half of the Grand Prix, is now out. Norris out in Australia. Heartbreak. Mercedes, issues for both cars today, and now one car out.
Come on, guys, what the Head down, Lando. We saw the potential today.
We gain another spot out of that, so P8, P7 for Red Bull. Toto Wolff, very optimistic on the radio. I mean, I'm very curious as I am continuing to struggle. It's just not a good ending to this Grand Prix, but I think McLaren, I mean, they're looking really good. But they're not, you know, way far out. I mean, Trackhouse is there in the mix. I mean, Leclerc and Trackhouse are about to get a podium in their first race, while Piastri, he's running up in 5th now as well after a rough start to the race, so he's been able to move forward. But Verstappen actually got overtook by Dragovic in these closing laps, so Dragovic to 6th, Verstappen to 7th as we start the final lap of the Australian Grand Prix, and McLaren's going to pick things up right where they left off last season and won 2 in the World Drivers' Championship. Of course, they won in the Constructors. We expected, based off what I felt like we had going into the season and based off of last season as well, that the Australian Grand Prix specifically wasn't going to be a strength for this Red Bull car, and it was proven today. P6 and P8 is what it's going to be, but it's going to be a victory for Alex Albon, who takes checkered flag here in Melbourne. He wins to kick off the season. 2 seasons in a row he's won this Australian Grand Prix.
Let's go, guys. Great car, thank you so much.
Podium in our first race as a team. Thank you, Charles.
Yes, let's go, guys. We're going to do big things together.
Leclerc, Trackhouse, their first race, gets a podium, and the only thing I get is a 3-second time penalty and a spin. It was rough. P8, not what we were looking for. You heard the radio of Albon, Justin Marks, and Leclerc at the end there. Excitement all around for them. Head scratching for us, but at the same time we expected it. Leclerc, driver of the day. Let's head to the podium celebrations.
McLaren have pulled it off. They've won in spectacular fashion here today. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, they managed their tyres to absolute perfection. A tyre whisperer, in fact. And that is what set them apart.
I would love to be celebrating there with Alex Albon. And Australia, continues to be a track that I just can't quite seem to figure out, really, here in F123. I love the circuit. Circuit's fantastic, especially with, of course, the newer configuration. I just can't figure it out. And yeah, I'm not surprised it went the way it did. I'm surprised it's taken this long to wreck myself like that here, honestly. But Albon at the top step of the podium. Aiden Jackson looked a lot closer to Albon today than where he ended last season. He fell off in the last half of last season, but he looks like he's ready to, give it a fight this time around. Of course, the next rounds will really show it now. But Trackhouse and not to mention, or not to forget, Chevrolet as well in their debut in Formula 1. They are with Trackhouse Racing. They get a podium as well in their debut as that new manufacturer is here. An exciting day for Formula 1. Both the Alpines get points due to Hamilton and Norris's misfortune. Obviously, we're not going to show the driver's standings. We know what that looks like, but there's the constructors. P4, we got some work to do. I'm not too concerned. It was kind of expected to struggle a bit today. But next episode, we head to the Mexico Grand Prix, and a track that I'm excited for, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.